Great. So welcome back to my channel. If you've never been to my channel before, you're a first-time viewer, welcome as well. This is one of the kind of a longer playlist that we're going to talk about, but I think it's an important one. We're going to talk about the basics of accounting and finance for entrepreneurs and small business owners. And a lot of you are thinking, but wait, can't I just pay my accountant to do that? Well, that's one way to do it, but there's a couple of reasons that that's not necessarily the best idea to rely entirely on your accountant. An accountant is not the entrepreneur. You are. You are responsible for the numbers. Okay? So you need to be able to understand how these numbers are derived, at least in a rudimentary way, so that you can be dangerous enough to ask your accountant the right kinds of questions. Second of all, a lot of entrepreneurs fall into this trap of making the numbers work. In other words, they wind up reformulating their business to match the books, but that's not necessarily helpful. You need to make the books work for you, not the other way around. And we'll talk more about that in this presentation, or in this playlist rather, but before we do that, let me at least give you a preview of what to expect in this playlist. Now you probably are thinking, well, in most of my playlists, I keep this whole little introductory thing up on the board. I'm not going to do that this time because I'm going to wind up using up this whole board as we're going through all the different terms and everything in this particular playlist. So having said that, we're in the introductory video right now, so it's the first video in this playlist. Then I'm going to talk to you a little bit more about what I just mentioned, about why you should care about the accounting and finance side of your business. The next video we'll talk about some critical cash flow rules that you need to remember. Then we'll talk about financial ratios and why they're important, and I'll list out a whole slew of financial ratios that you need to know. And I will refer to those throughout this playlist. Then we'll talk about, about 30 seconds each, the definitions and uses of an income statement, a balance sheet, and a cash flow statement. Just so that you're familiar with the terms. You may not know how to do them yet, but at least you know what they are and what they're used for. Now, we'll do several videos for 6, 7, and 8, but we're basically going to start with a real simple income statement, a little more complex income statement, and then a little bit more complicated. So we'll do like a couple of income statements, a couple of balance sheets, and a couple of cash flow statements with increasing complexity. I find it's best to start simple so that you understand the basics and the definitions that go into it, and then we'll just kind of build upon there. Then we'll talk about kind of this synthesis between an income statement, a balance sheet, and a cash flow statement. Basically, what's the relationship between all three of them? Because I think that's huge. Then we'll talk about pro forma documents. Those are the ones where you're actually forecasting or projecting, and the importance of the assumptions that go into a pro forma document, and more importantly, where you can come up with those assumptions. And those assumptions are huge because that's what people are going to ask you about the most. We'll talk about how to do a break-even analysis, and I'll give you some different techniques for that. That may actually be a couple videos. Then we'll look at a pro forma income statement, a pro forma balance sheet, and a pro forma cash flow. And I'll actually draw some sample spreadsheets across the board to kind of help you along with that. We'll talk about capital budgeting for a couple videos, and then we'll wrap it up with some final advice for you. Again, this is not designed to replace the services of a full-time accountant or to replace an accounting course. It's just the basics so that at least you're dangerous enough to ask the right questions. Well, great, and you know what I'm going to say. If you like these videos, give me a thumbs up, subscribe, and comment down below if you've got any questions. Cool. I'll see you in the next video.